Good morning, everyone. This is Swarupa Rani from the Department of English, PB Siddhartha College of Arts and Science. Now I am going to give explanation to barriers of communication. Okay, before going to the barriers, let us see the introduction to barriers communication. Communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, and feelings between individuals or groups. It is fundamental to human interaction and plays a crucial role in personal relationships, workplace dynamics, and society as a whole. So communication must be so when you are going to make a conversation with someone as an individual person, when you are in group, what is the main purpose here? To share our opinions, sharing of the information, especially our views, feelings, and ideas. So that is the main purpose. Okay, so then what are the key aspects of communication? That before that, coming to the definition of communication, communication involves both verbal and non-verbal methods, including spoken language, written text, gestures, facial expressions, and body language. Then, what are the types of communication? Mainly, there are three main types. What are they? Verbal communication, non-verbal communication, and visual communication. Then, coming to the first one, verbal communication, it involves spoken or written words, but whereas non-verbal communication involves body language, eye contact, posture, and tone of our voice especially. Okay, then visual communication uses visual aids like charts, graphs, and images to convey information. Then coming to the process, what is the process of communication? Especially here in this regard, three parties plays a key role: sender, message, and receiver. Mainly three parts plays a key role. Apart from that, here your channel is there, at the same time feedback is also there. Why? Because when the sender sends the message, how he is sending that message through one particular channel. When that sender sends the message through one particular channel, receiver has to receive the message. After receiving the message, receiver has to give his feedback. Giving feedback to the sender is called process of communication. Okay, then here in this regard, some gap occurs. That gap is called semantic gap. Why? Because sometimes receiver is unable to give his feedback immediately because of semantic gap. Why? Because the sender uses at that time inappropriate language. So because of that reason, the receiver is unable to understand what the sender has sent the message. That's the reason he is unable to give his immediate response. So here, coming to the main point, sender, the person in initiating the message. Message means the information being communicated to someone through one particular channel, the medium used to convey the message, for example, face to face or email or through your mobile phone. Then receiver, the individual or group receiving the message, that feedback, the response from the receiver that indicates whether the message was understood. It's totally based on the especially based on our communication, how we are sending the message. Well, we have to check it once carefully whether we have using appropriate language or not, especially to understand the receiver. Then coming to the next important point, importance of communication. What is the importance of communication? Let us see here. Effective communication fosters understanding, builds relationships, enhances collaboration, and promotes conflict resolution. It is essential for personal development, team dynamics, and organizational success. Then coming to the barriers to communication, this is the main thing. You have to know why these barriers occurs in our communication. Let us see. Various barriers can impede effective communication, such as language differences, cultural misunderstandings, emotional states, and organizational structures. Recognizing and addressing these barriers is crucial for improving communication. Then coming to the barriers, actually we have different barriers are there. Coming to the first one, linguistic barriers. What does it mean? Linguistic barriers related to only language. Why? Because different people speaks different languages. Sometimes we are unable to understand what they are saying because of this linguistic barrier. So let us see here. These occur when language differences hinder understanding. Variations in vocabulary, dialects, or the use of jargon can lead to miscommunication. Even native speakers many struggle if they use specialized terms unfamiliar to the listener. So, this is one of the main barrier, that is called linguistic barrier, that related to language. Then we have to know what are the causes for linguistic barriers. The linguistic barriers can arise from various factors impacting communication between individual at the same time groups also. Here are some common causes to linguistic barriers. What are the causes for linguistic barriers? Let us see now. Language difference. The first point is language difference. First cause, speaking different languages can create a fundamental barrier to understanding. Yes, why? Because different people speaks different languages. We are unable to understand. For example, when we are in front of the foreigner, we are unable to understand that foreign language because we doesn't know that language. Unable to understand. Okay, that becomes one of the barrier. Okay, then second one, dialects and accents. Variations within the same language can lead to misunderstandings. Regional dialects or strong accents can affect comprehension. The next one, limited vocabulary. This is also one of the main cause for the linguistic barriers. So, using of limited vocabulary. A limited vocabulary can restrict expression and comprehension, especially in complex discussion. Then coming to the non-verbal communication. What is there in this non-verbal communication for linguistic barrier? Let us see here. Differences in body language, especially gestures and facial expressions, can create additional barriers, especially if they are actually specific. So that's the reason in every time when you are as an individual person, when you are in group, we have to be aware of our non-verbal communication along with our verbal communication. Why? Because our non-verbal communication also plays a key role. If you doesn't understand anything, but sometimes we are able to understand through non-verbal communication, that means through body language. So that's the reason we have to focus on our non-verbal communication also. Then coming to the next point, language proficiency. Variations in language skills among individuals can lead to imbalances in communication effectiveness. Then jargon and technical languages, specialized terminology used in specific fields can confuse those not familiar with the context. Then coming to the next cause, cultural differences. Language is deeply tied to culture. Different cultural backgrounds may lead to different interpretations of phrases, idioms, and gestures. So you have to be aware of all these things. Then coming to the next one, educational background. Varying levels of education can influence language proficiency and comprehension, leading to gaps in understanding. Then context and environment, noise, distractions, or unfamiliar settings can affect the ability to communicate clearly. So all these are the causes for the linguistic barriers. So addressing these barriers often requires patience, cultural sensitivity, and sometimes the use of translation or interpretation services. Then coming to the second barrier, physical barrier. Till now we have seen linguistic barriers that related to language barriers. We have seen causes also. Then second one, physical barriers. What are these physical barriers? These involve environmental factors that impede communication. Examples include distance, background noise, or technical issues like poor phone connection. Physical barriers can make it challenging to hear or see the communicator effectively. Even when you are in classroom also, you may feel this type of physical barrier, creaking sounds of doors and windows and electrical sound of fan may causes. Those are also causes for the physical barriers. Then coming to the psychological barriers, these barriers stem from mental and emotional states. Actually, these psychological barriers totally depends on our mental status, the way of thinking. Factors such as stress, anxiety, or preconceived notions. Preconceived notions means preconceived assumptions. We are thinking we have, because sometimes our mind is occupied with something. So when you are in classroom, you are thinking about something. It's like body present, mind absent. That means you are thinking about something. Something means anything you are thinking. Especially when you are stressed, when you are anxiety. Okay, so these are the psychological barriers. It totally depends on our mind, our mental status. At the same time, interpretation. A person's mood can significantly affect how they perceive and respond to messages. It totally depends on our mental status. Okay, then geographical. Then coming to the next one, geographical separation. What is this geographical separation? Coming to the causes for the barriers. Physical distance between people can make communication challenging without technology. Then social distance, differences in social status or group dynamics can create barriers also. Then health limitations also, disabilities. For example, hearing, speech, or visual impairments can create significant communication challenges. Then chronic illness also, one of the cause. Okay, conditions that cause fatigue or cognitive impairment can affect engagement. Then coming to the causes of physical barriers. Then coming from noise. Background sounds can distract and make it difficult to hear, to concentrate. Poor lighting, even when you are in classroom also, insufficient light can hinder reading and visual communication. Then physical obstructions like walls or furniture can limit face-to-face interactions. So these are all causes for the physical barriers. Then technological issues, inadequate technology, lack of access to devices or poor internet connectivity especially can hinder the virtual communication. Then technical skills, varying levels of comfort with the technology can create barriers to effective communication. Then coming to the personal factors, low self-esteem. You feel sometimes like that your self-esteem is low. That means your self-respect is low. Sometimes you have to feel in some situations especially. Individuals may struggle to express themselves if they lack confidence. Yes, past experience, because of their past experiences also, negative past interactions can lead to reluctance or defense attitudes in communication. Then coming to mental health issues, depression can result in withdrawal and reduced motivation to engage with others. Then social anxiety, fear of social interactions can prevent effective communication. That one kind of stage fear also. Then what are the causes for psychological barriers? Psychological barriers, emotional states, stress and anxiety, fear of rejection is there. Oh, why? Because high stress levels can impair focus and clarity in communication. Then fear of rejection, worry about how others will respond can inhibit open dialogue. Then coming to the cultural factors, cultural differences, different cultural backgrounds can lead to misunderstandings or misinterpretations. The stereotypes and bias. Yeah, this is very very important point. Why? Because we do every pose, we have to avoid this type of attitude, stereotype. So we don't want to behave like a stereotyped person. So before that, you have to know what is stereotype. Stereotype means fixed image about something or some person, especially in a negative way, without knowing anything about that person. You are thinking about negatively towards someone or something. Why? Because at that moment you are like stereotyped person. You have to avoid that type of attitude. Oh, okay, prejudice can create barriers to understanding and acceptance. Then coming to the cognitive factors, cognitive overload. Being overwhelmed with information can impede processing and communication. Differences in processing styles. Individuals may have different ways of understanding or expressing information, leading to communication. So by understanding these causes, individuals and organizations can take steps to mitigate their impact and promote more effective communication. Then coming to the interpersonal barriers, these arise from the dynamics between individuals. So here interpersonal barriers and psychological barriers are correlated with one another, because interpersonal barriers also totally depends on our mind, our mindset, the way of thinking. Okay, trust issues, personal conflicts, or power imbalances can inhibit open communication. A lack of rapport can lead to misunderstandings or reluctance to share information because of this interpersonal barrier. And cultural barriers can lead to varied interpretation of messages and behavior. It's like norms, values, and communication style differ across culture. Why? Because different countries follows different cultures. Every country has its own culture tradition. So every country has to follow their own culture tradition and customs. But we don't want to, at the same time, we don't want to blame other countries' cultures traditions. We have to give respect. We don't want to blame others' culture, which can result in misinterpretation or offense if not understood. Okay, then causes for the interpersonal barriers. First one, poor communication skills. You are unable to communicate with others because of your negative attitude, especially inadequate listening skills, unclear expression, or lack of feedback can lead to misunderstandings. So that's the reason while you are going to communicate, you have to listen carefully. Effective listening plays a key role. Then personality differences. Conflicting personality types, it's like introverts versus extroverts, can create friction in interactions. Okay, then emotional states. Stress, for example, stress, anger, or sadness can affect how individuals communicate and perceive messages. Then our emotional balance also plays a key role. We have to control, we have to keep our all emotions under our control, but we don't want to let our emotions rule on us. That is the main point. We have to keep it in mind. The lack of trust. Here there is no trust. If there is no trust between individuals, open communication is often stiff. Yes, it's true. Then defensiveness. Individuals may become defensive in discussion, leading to conflict rather than resolution. Then prejudice or bias, preconceived notions about others can hinder objective communication and understand. So that's the reason we have to avoid our total negative attitude. Then past conflicts, past experiences, previous disagreements or unresolved issues can create tension in current interactions. Okay, then what are the causes for cultural barriers? Language difference, cultural norms, values. So these are the different causes for cultural barriers. Stereotyping. We don't want to behave like stereotyped person. We have to avoid. Then now we have to be aware of non-verbal communication. But we are missing all these things. That's the reason these points became causes for the barriers. Then cultural assumptions. Assuming that one's own cultural practices are the norm can alienate others and hinder communication. Okay, then historical context, adoption challenges. So then adoption challenges, individuals may struggle to adopt to a new cultural environment, of course, but affecting their communication abilities. Then coming to the last one, organizational barriers. These barriers are related to the structure and culture of an organization. Hierarchical structures can create communication silos, while unclear communication channels can lead to misunderstandings. Organizational policies and practices can also influence the flow of information. So let us see what are the causes for the organizational barriers. Coming to the first one, hierarchical structure. Rigid organizational can impede communication flow, make it difficult for information. Then poor communication channels, lack of leadership support, especially if leadership does not prioritize open communication, employees may feel discouraged from sharing ideas or feedback. Then cultural norms, then geographical separation. All these are the causes. Information overloaded, very very important. This is one of the main cause for the organizational barrier. Excessive information can overwhelm employees, leading to confusion and difficulty in prioritizing important messages. Then inadequate training, lack of training in communication especially, or tools can result in ineffective exchanges among team members. Then ambiguous roles and responsibilities, that means unclear job descriptions, can lead to misunderstandings about who is responsible for what, resulting in communication background breakdowns, especially the resistance to change. This is also one of the cause for organizational barrier. Employees may resist new communication practices or technologies, creating barriers to effective communication. So, to mitigate these barriers, organizations can foster a culture of open communication, provide training on effective communication practices, encourage feedback, and utilize appropriate communication tools. Promoting inclusivity and transparency can also help enhance overall organizational communication. Then coming to the conclusion, understanding communication and its dynamics is vital in navigating personal interactions and professional environments. By enhancing communication skills, individuals can improve their relationships, work more efficiently or effectively in teams and contribute positively to their communication. So, dear students, till now I have seen introduction to the communication. After that, the barriers, the main six barriers along with the causes. What are the causes for those barriers we have seen? Okay, thank you.